Okay, this is my tutorial of Labyrinth of Refrain, New Game 80%, and this will be reviewing my 226 current world record as it stands right now. Um, and I'm redoing this because last time I was tired and got lazy, like halfway through my video, and I've also made changes to some of my farming spots, mainly the weed farm for withered weeds and the Anamaru farm. The only way I can see either of these two farm spots improved is putting your weed farm after the end of Verdant Phenom, and we'll probably touch on that later. Um, but pretty much the farming spots were moved so that you could get the most. Your farming wasn't made redundant as you were going through the level. It was instead saved for after. um, so that the things that you picked up during the level could, in theory, shorten your farm. Um, I guess I could skip to the end of the tutorial. There's really um, nothing horribly important. It is just skipping the game's actual tutorials. Um, I get a pretty good Dragmire kill. Was 137. Um, okay. Uh, Skipping the enigmatic evil space. Okay, we will go from here. Um, we're going to be crafting our three puppets. We're going to be starting with our tank. The reason I start with my tank is just because it's easier to sort later. Um, no real reason beyond that. I went with Unbreakable, Sun Stance, and Flat. This gives you the most speed a tank can have. Sun gives it HP to make up for the fact that you went with Flat Growth, and Unbreakable gives you guard chance. For my mages, I go with Wise. Um, I go Sharp for more magical power. I go Standard, so I'm not sacrificing any health or luck by going Moon, while keeping the max amount of magical damage. And I go Donum Tenacity for more damage and faster game clear. Um, I think that's all there is to touch on there. Grabbing mana when and where I can. Otherwise, just moving my butt and skipping tutorials. Um, okay. I'm gonna take a quick pause right there. Okay, right here, as you're walking through this door, right here, if you see, uh, right in this area, that there is no boxes. When you get to this hallway down here, you don't have to check down here for boxes. So that is one thing when you're looking for spoons early in Campanula. Um, that, you know, whether or not those boxes are there, since they can have a spoon for you and they are good to check if they are there. Okay. Um, Doing pretty really clear stuff. One thing to note here is that your mage in the second slot is most likely to be attacked. Of or it's second most likely. Basically, your Schemer Pact is just horribly unlikely to be attacked. While the other two share a good bit of aggro. So I generally heal my Healer Pact uh, just to keep it alive for when we swap it to Attack Pact. Um, Healing your tank is kind of optional. Depends on how many battles you're getting and how scared you are of random crits, but it's not horribly necessary outside of bad luck. I still check anyway, which wasn't fantastic of me. Um, that means I didn't check when I was doing my fall. And I think I'm actually going to back it up. Yeah, this hallway right here. This hallway can also have boxes in it. The boxes here can also give you a silver spoon. Getting our attack pact and equipping it immediately. That is in case we get a Thistlehead fight. There's one bad fight up on this floor, and it is the 5 Thistleheads. You get that fight and you don't have the attacker pact, you become a sad and slow panda. I equipped the Slave Lance for things like single Thistleheads, and the single Chomper guys. I forget what they are called. Also, this fight is great for both Attack Pact and Slave Lance. This one's not as slow. That is showing why you have both, pretty much. That box just to the left, if you can see probably after this battle, that one can also have a silver spoon. I'm probably going to grab it. Yep, I do choose to grab it. And those are the boxes that you're going to want to watch out for on this floor. All of them can produce a silver spoon. All of those will, if you get a silver spoon out of any of them, it will save time later. I grab my blue jewel. That completes the floor. Going to be doing my witch report. I don't need to repair, although I do need to make a puppet. I will change the difficulty to easy, and I will get find more items. While making another puppet, or yeah, making another puppet. Same stats as all my mages. You don't have to keep all of your mages cookie cutter stats, but I choose to just for that going Donum Tenacity should be the fastest. Although it won't always save you turns on all the fights, it should just generally, on principle, make things faster. Grabbing our Mage Pact here and putting on our 4th puppet into our Brigade formation just to get it EXP. I made a mistake there in how I ordered putting my packs up. I should never put Healer Pact up. I should have just moved Schemer Pact, and then swap the puppets in Schemer and Mage. So small mistake there. Grab more puppet parts, and then I go up to my objective. After I hit the button, hit the objective, I am going to destroy my puppets for a quick warp back to base. And I chose to repair my puppets there, I believe, because let's go back a little bit. And yes, okay. So my first puppet here was not damaged. This is the most important puppet to look at. However, the second most important puppet to look at is your tank. If your tank's arm gets destroyed and this turns into a yellow square, which means his arm popped off, the arm with the lance, then you'll need to repair him, absolutely. Also, if, like what happened to me, his head pops off, that is another scenario where you'll have to repair him. Any damage to your first puppet will lower her mana, and I personally choose to repair always when it deals with my first puppet, going through Campanula. So that is why I go for the repair, though. Your third puppet is very important for clearing the purple slimes on the 3rd floor. I chose to wait instead of grabbing that fight. And just plowing through. Made a mistake. Slammed into, yeah, a perfect example of the purple slimes. Or pink slimes? Ugly slime creatures. So, I'm taking this path. The reason why I take that path is I find it generally easier to get more dodges. Also, you don't have to go through the thing guarding the first hallway after that slime encounter that I got. Uh, I believe I repair here, although I don't think it was necessary. I believe the only arm that was damaged was the off arm on my tank. I equipped the Muddy Amulet before destroying all my puppets because you will drop items, and I do not wish to drop my Muddy Amulet. Um, I went into the left side pocket for weed farming first so that I could route up through here. That is slightly faster than my old route. Um, the boxes that I pointed out earlier chose to drop a mudstone instead of a silver spoon, which is unfortunate, but silver spoons are pretty rare. You just got to make sure that you are checking. I checked the ones in the hallway since I haven't gotten a spare spoon. I made note in my VOD, I'm pretty sure, of the one withered weed I did get earlier. So I know how many I have to get later. Although I do think I still check since this isn't a route that's horribly familiar to me yet. Um, I go back to grabbing, I believe this is a soul. Yeah, should be the soul on this floor. 2 souls in a puppet part. Now we are going back to the boatman. Letting him talk his gibberish and push Dronia's dialogue forward while grabbing the other tablet. The language tablet. That will give us 3 objectives complete. We will have, once we complete our 10 saltpeter, it'll be the saltpeter, the boatman's gibberish, and the ability to decipher the boatman's gibberish we will need to turn in. Turning in all 3 of those will unlock our mud exits. Um, and for anyone who's beaten this game casually, knows that mud exits are very good, very important. No downside to mud exits. Outside of maybe the reinforcement cost. Not sure I went for the rusted lamp in the corner. I popped myself there. Don't need to protect any items. We haven't been collecting anything important. Make puppets here. Both mages, both with the same stats. I go for Wise as Temperament for the most amount of mana on your items, since you do not get very much mana being as low level as you are throughout this run. We should be doing a saltpeter farm now. Pretty classic saltpeter farm. Keeping note of the number of withered weeds, we're at 3 now. Now after we get our saltpeter, we're just going to keep running through the level, and we'll finish our weed farm at the end in the off chance that we pick up weeds just doing our main objective. It would in theory shorten the weed farm that we'll have to make up for at the end of Campanula. Had a pretty quick weed farm there. Turn in all 3 of my objectives. Leave Labyrinth at will, which is my mud exits. And we're back into it. Destroying that door was an accident. What I meant to do was drop that mud exit. We'll be revisiting that spot. It is a very quick time save. It's not horribly necessary to drop there. Then we were going back to the boatman. Plowing through the wall after dropping the mud exit, or pretty much heading straight east, should save you a small percent chance in a battle. And we should be pretty much just destroying our way to the boatman. And dropping a portal, agreeing to everything he's extorting us for, and crossing the Mach. Or preparing to drop the or cross the Mach later. Mud exit, destroying ourselves, no items to protect. That is one of the times I do not repair. I didn't see anything important broken. Both my 1 and my 4 were undamaged puppets. I'm putting the Mage Pack on here to get more EXP on my 5 core puppets leading into Campanula, or Astrum. Since the first boss fight of Astrum, you can be pretty under level. Drop a mud exit there to get back to Domina. And then I'm off to get the spear. After I grab the spear, I'm going to equip both of the spear and the fairy amulet that I acquired to protect them both from the blowing my puppets to bits. Menuing here is a little poor. And we hit the give up button. We are going to repair here simply because that is the last time we should ever need to blow our puppets to bits. And we pretty much finished Campanula. Oh, one thing right here that I fell for, is I've noticed a high probability chance of this creature being here. Instead of slamming through the door and getting into a horrendous fight that takes several turns, just wait. It is a good idea to just wait. I got the best case scenario of just 1 mana stone. But yeah, just having some patience there will save time. Grab the Campanula key. Grab the treasure barrel for selling. I should be grabbing the man on the walls here, but I'm being lazy. Not a fantastic idea. I would not recommend it. Grab the Campanula cape. I grabbed that mostly for mana. That item can be skipped if you want a small time save. Um, I choose to get it, and I think it kind of pays off. In ooh, not Melm, but Umbra. Um, since I believe I get pretty good mana rolls, and I end up with a puppet with like 800 mana in Umbra. I check my weeds. I have 3 weeds. Four, five, and six. So my weed farm was pretty nice to me. Time of 9:14 finishing Campanula. I go straight into Astrum. No real messing around. As long as you have your Lance equip, you're pretty much good to rush straight into Astrum. Um, if you choose not to go with the Rusted Lance, be careful because these gnomes are very fast. And these particular set of units are very slow if this is the um, setup you choose to go with. Grab the Conquer Leaf there. That is one of the important items in Astrum for completing your apprentice notes. Shouldn't have burnt that balloon, should have just stabbed it with my lance, but um, grab the Flame Amulet there. After this fight, I'm going to equip both the Flame Amulet and the Mod Amulet from Domina. They have good bits of mana, which I don't really care about right now since it won't give me the mana in the dungeon. I'm mostly interested in the Donum power increase. I grabbed the olive branch there just in case the game gets a bit stingy on me and decides it doesn't want to give me it during my farm. It is mostly just a safety thing. If you observe yourself getting an olive branch in Campanula, they come from Thistlehead reps, and it can save out on grabbing it there. Um, just going through stabbing more gnomes until we get our last mage pact, which is right here. We are going to equip 3 mage pacts, our attack pact, then we are going to sort our pacts in my preferred style, which is moving my attack pact right in front of or moving my physical pact right in front of my tank pact. We tell the statue to shove off because it's creepy, and then it tries to mug us for our shoes. This is generally a 2-turn fight, sometimes 3. Yep, 2-turn fight. Nothing really to say about this fight. You pretty much just all in. It is one of the very easy fights this game offers you. Now we are on our way to our farming spot. I did not move the Astrum farming spot, even though it is decently common to get some of the items later on. I chose that because the Astrum farming spot is just in the absolute middle of the dungeon, whereas the Melm and Campanula farm spots are just right at the beginning. So they're super simple to get back to. But yeah, coming back to this spot, unless you leave a portal here, unless you get enough mana, um, like 5,000 mana spare to have a third portal by this point, it's just not ever worth it to try to move this farm to the end. I'm accidentally going to my apprentice notes there when I meant to go into my market. Sell my treasure barrel. Uh, we lost a lot of money earlier destroying our puppets and repairing them. Um, Otherwise, we could have bought 3 puppet parts there. I go with 4 just because you're not guaranteed a remix, and your 10th puppet is pretty important. And if you don't get a remix, or actually, my 4th purchase, or my 4th puppet part purchase is actually even better in this route since I've moved the farm split later. And you want to make your 10th puppet inside Melm, but we'll get to that later. All of my puppets here are cookie cutter. It's 2 tanks and a mage, following the same formula as earlier. We're going to put on 2 witch troop packs. This will mean all of our puppets are getting EXP at a rate that is higher than just the passive 20% that you get at the end. So I put my puppets in, sort them. And here we are looking. Oh, so there are the items that we're looking for here. We already got Conquer Leaf. We just got Toy Sword and Toy Jewelry. Those 2 are a pair, and it should only count towards your farm total if you've gotten both. There's the Olive Branch, which we've already picked up. There is Bread Sandwich and Agent Black. You only ever want to be missing one of those. I found that is the absolute best way to do this, because Astrum is very, very important for pushing your notes. If you do not get a good Astrum farm, you can get locked. Your notes can get locked up very early. So pretty much 5 items you need, and 1 you pick up for pretty much free. I get an olive branch in my farm, which means if I weren't skeptical about this game's RNG, I could have just waited. But olive branch is pretty freaking common, so I believe I got Toy, Agent Black, I Conquer Leaf, what Olive Branch, and I believe I'm missing Bread Sandwich. So, only missing Bread Sandwich, I take my leave. All of those items are pretty common. Astrum is a very nice place to farm, unless you're looking for Agent Black. God forbid your notes get messed up to the point where you just need Agent Black, and that is the easiest thing to acquire. I've been in that scenario. It sucks. Pretty much just running through, trying to get to the boss. Gnomes are weak to fire. Yeah. Fatal flaw of being a gnome is being horribly flammable. I think there's only one thing in this dungeon that isn't like horribly flammable, and it is the statues that like to light people on fire. I just don't trust those statues at all. They are they are really sketchy. I don't know who installed them. I don't think it was the gnomes, or maybe it is the gnome version of like capital punishment. It's just burning other gnomes. I made a mistake there. You actually want to go run straight through the first enemy that bumps into you, right, when you end up in that scenario, because ending up in running away and ending up into a double fight is really bad for you. There's generally 2 creatures patrolling this area. They'll often end up on your right and your left. If you're lucky, you can end up with 1 spawn here and completely dodge it by just block. But yeah, getting pig again takes a little time. And can kill your tanks, as noted there. Grabbing the pumpkin lamp, because it is one of the few lamps that we will be picking up. We got Gnome's Blood, which is a key item for a Melm quest. Or a quest that we get in Melm. That is probably the more correct way to put that. You're pretty much bound to get fights in this area, so you don't want to be shy of just slamming into things. The more waiting you do, the more you'll get spotted, and the more battles you'll run into. There's just so many turns of smashing walls and smashing buildings and tight corridors that I've only ever had one run that completely dodged all encounters there. We're just burning more gnomes. I move some puppets there for mana reasons. And that pretty much just means I got a lot of battles coming to this point. Isn't something that generally needs to be done. And is actually mostly done as a safety, although if you get a bad statue battle, you can lose some time if you don't have the proper mana. Set down a portal, use a witch belt there so that I can set my items properly and restore my mana. So I do not have enough mana to fight Pecorino. We're going to be starting by mashing Mudfling and pretty much just stabbing the thing in front. With your tank pack is generally the only one with the strategy that has options. You can choose it to focus the front line with the rest of your squad, or you can choose to block if you think that you're going to get ripped up. I generally recommend just letting them go all in on whatever they choose, since the Rusted Spear has a pretty good chance of poison. Or not a pretty good chance, but it has a chance of poisoning. And putting that on Peiko or having it stab the front line, both are good for you. So that is the Pecorino fight. It is mostly just go all in. The only thing that you really have to be worried about is that thing in the front line. It actually does more damage than Pecorino does, on easy at least. Especially since Pecorino mostly targets the front line and we only have 2 disposable puppets in the front line. We kind of just like take advantage of her AI in this fight, whereas the Gnome Battalion likes to just rip everyone to shreds. We go back into the dungeon and we destroy Pecorino for the Peiko Pact. Peiko Pact is nice, has our first access to tier 2 spells. You could, in theory, not get the Peiko's Pact. There's only really one area where I see that really hurting you, and that is during your EXP farm. Killing Pick Peepers can cost you a lot of mana. And they are only weak to Fog. Or at least of the thing, of the damage that you bring. Their only weakness is fog. They have a lot. I think their weakness is slash, pierce, and fog. But because we are very mage oriented. Um, Although I do figure there are probably ways around that if you choose not to go with Pecos Pact. Um, it's just not something I've experimented with. I like Pecos. So I went into that room in Melm to grab a soothing egg, or not a soothing egg, sorry, a spotted egg. That is to get my frail pact. If I did a good job in Astrum, which I did, getting a spotted egg from that room, or just at all in your first trip into Melm, uh, will do will get you Frail Pact, and Frail Pact is your first access or your second access to tier 2 spells. It is an incredibly cheap pact, and that is its trade-off. It's being very cheap in mana is its trade-off for oh, English is hard. Lowering your defense. Yes, there we go. Okay, now we are going about getting our Frail Pact from Ill Mother and Ill Daughter. There's our Frail Pact. We're just going to clear as many of these. Oh, I guess I did pick up Bread Sandwich. So I think I got every single item there. That's not bad. But yeah, you want to, your first time in a Melm, grab as many of the glowing spots sitting on the ground as you can. Because if you don't get a spotted egg, you could get kind of sad. That is definitely a realistic thing. Because I've only done one run of this, I don't have a backup strategy for not getting the spotted egg. So one thing I guess you could do is instead of dropping your portal right at the breakable rocks, dropping it in the junction just to the west of dropping it before the door to that set of rocks. That way you have quick access to both the farm area and the breakable rocks. But that is not something I tested and messed with. Oh, did I already go get Tactician's Pact while I was running my mouth? Yeah, I did. Okay. Too much talking about theoreticals. Whoops. Okay. We're going to be taking a left. Sadly, we get into a battle here. This isn't horribly common. Getting a battle here. In fact, pretty rare if I'm not mistaken. We go down here, get Tactician's Pact. This will be useful for both Rosa Tempest, which I make mistakes on in my run, and Verdant Phenom are the two places where Tactician's Pact is really, really good. And completely worth picking up, even though it is a two turns charge to charge attack, which does not feel good, I will admit, but there are not really any better options since we cannot get a second Veterans Pact. Which Veterans Pact is God tier? I'm apparently slamming my face into every encounter like an idiot. Oh, sadly, fog does not clear in one. So when we're running through with this route, having the Anamaru farm at the end, we generally want to pick up as many of the ground items like the one in front of me that is safe. I do not consider the one in front of me safe, so I leave it because it just the chance of having an NMR there feels too low to put myself at risk. I grab 2 there, try to give this creature the slip, but it's onto my shenanigans. Um, but I got 2 possible item spots, so. Swapping around mana, because I got a lot of battles, so my frail was low. I'm getting a pretty bad Malm. You never want to see these golems. These golems make you sad. I've considered putting on the Tactician's Pact just to clear those golems. But the one time I tried it, I did not feel very good. But like, if someone wants to try it, I do not recommend ever stepping out in front of those ogres. That was actually just a mistake for me getting impatient. It's generally better to wait there because they have a chance of spotting you. But yeah, if someone wants to try putting on Tactician's Pact through here and just seeing what it feels like, it does very poorly on the Dungworm, which you will encounter later. And that is, I guess, my biggest warning, is that it feels very bad in that fight. And it felt like to do this optimally, I would have to be swapping on and off of my Tactician's Pact. Which I guess you could leave one mage in both pact, simply to keep them both functional and quick swapping between the two as the situation arises. That is theoretical. I have no proof at all that that is good. Grab some mana, and we're just headed through our objectives. We grabbed a red mantle back there because, well, we'll grab anything we can on our route. At least anything useful. This is one of the times where a dialogue option is necessary. We need to say yes to that. When you're skipping dialogue, I'm pretty sure it always goes with the ... option. I heal here just because of how many battles I got into. I did not want to like accidentally wipe here. That would be very horrible to your run. And that is something that you need to take note of, is how many of your characters are still above 50%, because those are the only ones likely to live. I grab a headgear and a Donum Anklet. I will be equipping that Donum Anklet before I go into the Dungworm fight, which is coming up after I catch my story up. There will also be making a puppet here. It's pretty important to make a puppet here. That way your puppet starts getting EXP and doesn't end up under level by the end of the game. It's really easy to overlook making a puppet here. So if you like to speedrun with notes, it's something to put down. Because I think every single route will probably be making a puppet here. I don't see a route where you're under 10 puppets. Someone someday may surprise me though. I also take some time here to sort my puppets, since I have what is I consider my 10 main puppets. I also put on the Mighty Loincloth just for more damage on my lance. Not necessary, is personal choice. This is the thing that does not give a worm's butt about your blunt damage. And I just go all in on this fight. I go all in on the next 2 quote-unquote boss fights. Pretty much everything we have at this point is either effective or very effective, so. Pretty easy clear. Make sure you drip a portal there when you're doing this particular type of routing through this area. Um, and I didn't mention it, but the reason we went back to base after grabbing the anklet was because after taking those 2 falls for time reasons, um, obviously we need like health and mana to do these 2 fights. I get a really bad troll fight here. I'll just go all in on this fight also. I felt like I ended up at very bad mana values here. Uh, because I think my Frail Pact is already out of mana. So I got a bit unlucky on my fight. Um, Pretty much just running through. Um, Headed into Campanula now for. Oh, I forget what the item is called. But we pretty much just need to talk to. Ooh, yeah, I got myself into a bad scenario there. I tried to get out by attacking the one that was aggro to me rather than the one that wasn't, but nope, I got caught with my hand in the cookie jar. I tried to hopefully squeak around them and get the avoids, but no such luck. These are really bad fights to get. My Melm was just not good in this run. But yeah, if you get the 7 slime fight here, I think you just like reset. It's pretty bad. So go and talk to Neldo. He gives you one of the items you're looking for. Sorry about that yawn. Um, you go back through mugging statues. I always generally cast 2 of the effective spells, even though you can end up with scenarios where either Pecos or Frail can clear it in 1 spell. It's just a little bit safer to do it in 2. Oh, dang, yawning. Needs to stop. I do not need to cast 2 spells on these things. I am playing on autopilot. Um, oh, so yeah, the farm change in Melm. Melm is the more important one of the 2 farm changes from between Campanula and Melm. If you get an Enemaru seed, you could save between like 2 and 4 minutes, which is why we generally moving Melm to the back end is the more important of the 2 farm changes. Um, it's not horribly common by any stretch to get an Enemaru when walking through Melm. I put it at between 1 in 4 and 1 in 3. So not like the most uncommon thing in the world. So, um, but it does make getting the Frail Pact really awkward. Um, Grabbing as many item spots as we can. We grab that horrific rusted lance. It's not necessary to grab since we already have a rusted lance. We're just uh, while we're close, um, we're just taking the chance that maybe it is better than the one we've already picked up from Campanula. which kind of points out how crazy early you get that Rusted Spear. That even, what, 2 missions later, or 2 dungeons later, and maybe 10 hours in a casual play later, you're getting items of like basically the same quality. Frail Pact will generally clear these Dark Larvae. There is an item that you can get from Dark Larva, which isn't the Tactician's Pact. I think it's the Recon Pact. You can get that will actually save you some time in Verdant Phenom. You can put it over your Mage Pact. And then later, or I guess you put it over your Pecos Pact. And it will save some time on fights that just do not take magic damage very well. Mainly the fairies. The only real important part through the back part of Belm is just don't get greedy around ogres or around trolls. It is just how you lose time. It never feels good to wait in a speed run, but it feels even worse to get a troll fight. Grab a jitterbug here. I like to grab both of these jitterbugs just because, well, we don't get many, and I've run into very niche scenarios where having a jitterbug kind of saved my run, but few and far between. We quickly restore, go back to base to restore mana. Oh, I'm getting Leave Labyrinth at will too, since my mana is above 5,000. I didn't need to. I could have actually saved that for after Melm and after I've destroyed amulets, but we'll get to that later. What was I talking on? Yeah, go back to base to restore mana and to do an equipment check. Always try to make sure you do the equipment check at base, because mana values are kind of bound to change. And when you change mana values in a dungeon, you get shorted. So in this fight, I don't generally all in with my tanks because that is how you run out of tanks. They are made of paper right now, sadly. And this thing does all elemental damage instead of physical. So that is, yeah, like that, how you lose tanks. I got too greedy. I did 2 attacks with my tanks. And, outside of your tanks, just trying to be a front line so your back line doesn't get attacked, you're just going all in. Oop, I actually ran out of front line because my tanks were taking very slow turns. Grab another jitterbug. Grab Edamaru Seeds, Empty Bird Cage, and Slimy Demon Drool. All of those items are required for witch petitions. And now I'm going to go about my Edamaru farm. And because I had a very normal run, which generally means that you didn't pick up any seeds, I'm looking for 2. It requires 3 to get the witch or the apprentice node done. I make a mistake there by putting my or by going back to the wrong spot. I take this route here specifically just because it clears all of the floor spots in one go. I get my first Animaru seed really early, especially considering my wasted time going back to the wrong spot. I believe it takes me a little bit to get my other one. I believe I run out of time ahead. There's just not much to talk about when Animaru farming. Come on, YouTube video. Stop buffering, please. I should acquire one pretty soon. My next one? Okay, it's this one. Okay, head back to base. Don't know why I go into the map menu. Go into disassembly, and now I'm getting rid of my junk amulets that I picked up. You're trying to get over 12k mana to pick up your last iteration of portals, my portals. That way we stop using witch's bells, and we also aren't losing time. Oh, it's 11k. Sorry, 12k is for the final battle formation. I believe I also pick up heaps of EXP since I have extra mana. Not necessary through here. In fact, sometimes I find it a little bit of a hindrance in both Melm, or not Melm, but Verdant and Umbra. But it's not bad to get. Like, there's no downside unless you get caught in a bad mana scenario. But that's all about planning ahead after you've seen the results of your fight and your mana values. So one thing that I've actually routed out is that exclamation point that I just passed. I do not come back for that later. At the end of Verdant Phenom, I've actually routed that out in favor of just hopefully not going for it, since it is a minute time loss going for that one apprentice note clear. Just generally doesn't feel good. So you always want to take note that there is a free apprentice note clear there. And in case you're ever stuck in your apprentice notes, that is the one that gives you shameful honey. So should you ever end up in a scenario with block notes and you're trying to finish a run, that is still there as an option. Pretty much running through, I drop a portal back there so I can talk to the fairy. That is the fairy that spawns Lamiodon after we have done. There are two prerequisites to spawning Lamiodon. One is talking to Bagworm, the other is watching that fairy get eaten. Poor fairy. But I mean, the fairies talk a lot of smack and try to kill you, so only kind of poor fairy. Drop this one here. That is your Lamiodon portal. That is as close as we're getting to Lamiodon on this trip to Bagworm. So we drop a portal there. Burning some flowers. We don't care about mana. We're just clearing as efficiently as possible. Fog doesn't always clear flowers in one go. I made sure to unstack back there since I was stacking in the first place. Talk to Silly Bagworm. And catch up our story. And now we go to the ferry. Always remember to drop 2 portals here because we will be back here because of the caterpillar train. When we go to Lamiodon's portal, our first objective will be the camphor leaf, which is in the upper left-hand corner of the map. And, ooh, I should make note of this. Okay, at this junction, so this down path that I'm using, that choice I actually made a couple seconds earlier. So right here, I noticed that he's guarding this right side. This path right over here, this is a four-way junction. This path right over here will also take you to the camphor leaf if you spot him, say, over here or like somewhere in this area. You're going to want to take this route. I see him over here, so I take this route and just take the side branching path up this way because they'll both reconnect right here. So that is just a note for a quick time save. Ooh. One more thing is it's kind of hard to notice, but right there, I bump the wall and I move that thing one space forward. Very small thing, but will often stop you from getting into a battle with that thing. If you don't see him taking that route, going in front of you, which he does like 80% of the time, you just head to the right and grab your flame amulet from behind, plow through the wall, then go to Lamudon. I equipped my amulets before this fight, or my one flame amulet, because damage. I like damage. Lamudon fight is brain dead easy. You just all in. Pecos Pact clears the spare flowers, and you are otherwise just doing single target damage. For spell choices on your first turn. And I mean, well, we're doing nothing but killing a flower. On Troll Shaman, you want to do multiple fog attacks to clear his little minions while still damaging him. Since they are not all in the same row, like Lamedon's flowers are, you actually do have to use fog. Also, poison is nice. Okay, we return to Bagworm. We tell him the flower's done eating your people. He gives us a green mana ward. And now we are putting on Veteran Pact and Tactician Pact to smash Magitumblers because expletive Magitumblers. They're evil things with a guard rate that love to be trolls. This is one of the dialogues that we want to affirm. Really good. Showing already why we bring Veteran Pact. I'm very happy that the Troll Shaman gives us Veteran Pact. It makes me very happy smashing things. It is very useful for this route. Right now we're on our way to the I don't know why I want to call this place Astrum. The Verdant Phenom antechamber. Trying to avoid as many encounters as possible. Very tight corridors, so it's difficult. I'm being pretty mana inefficient with my Pecos Pact, but I'm going with the theory that hopefully I don't need it later. Is a theory that can bite you in the ass should something bad happen. Give this thing the run around. Yeah. Get caught because there's junk in the corridor. Oh, this is the guard rate Magitumbler. This is the exact fight why I hate Magitumblers. it actually wouldn't have even been a bad idea to queue up a full moon drop. Um, like if you want a safety straight on these, always queue up a full moon drop. If you're just trying to go fast, trying to or just thunder crashing them with veteran is the fastest. Um, yeah, okay. Be careful back. Do. Um, right here. You can end up on a lot of weird step counters as you're going through here, and you never want to get in a fight with that purple thing. That is how you lose runs, especially if it puts you on the wrong side after you flee. Assuming that you can flee in one piece, those things aren't very well known for letting things get away. This is a mistake. You do not need to grab that crossbow. I do because it is part of the very first route I went with. So just my mistake. I went with the overkill just because there was a pretentious enemy there. Pretentious is not the worst enemy augment you can get. But still, whenever I run into those enemies, I like to give them just a little piece of my mind and make sure they don't mess up my run, since it's really hard to predict what kind of stats they're going to get. Grab that silver spoon. That is our second silver spoon. I haven't really mentioned what silver spoons do yet. When you pop a silver spoon, things are not allowed to spawn or respawn. And we will be abusing that later with the fact that when you go to a new floor, everything has to spawn. Nothing starts on the level. Everything is forced to spawn on your very first turn in the level. So, you kind of catch them, and the level just ends up completely empty until the spoon wears out. We'll be using that later through Umbra, Rosa Tempest, and Amadeus, Necropolis. That's where the battles start getting ridiculous. So something nice about pins is that they don't have a guard rate. This enemy right here. That means you can pretty much just full moon drop them whenever you get more than 3 of them on screen. It is probably the most efficient way to clear them. You can, however, if you have both mana in your Frail and Pecos Pact, doing a Fire plus Fog spell can clear the whole lot. Generally, I'm not going to state that as an absolute. Also, if you don't start Donum Tenacity, they actually just probably can't. So that is probably one of the advertised benefits of Donum Tenacity. We go catch up our story. It's not necessary to fighting Numblebee. Repair anything that has gotten ripped off us. Not making any puppets here because we are at our 10 puppet maximum right now. We take off the Tactician's Pact because even though blunt damage is okay, I think it's actually hits for efficient. So effective damage and not like super effective damage. That you just would rather have Mage Pact, which can do super effective damage. This thing does not like being burnt. Has pretty normal B weaknesses, being burnt and smashed. Also, we do an armor update right there. So on this fight, I am almost always defensive with my tank pact, except for the first turn. The first turn, this thing is locked into always doing pheromone spray, which means you can just kind of poke it with your spear. And in this fight, I believe my commentary states that I get very greedy. I attack 3 times with my tank pact. Generally, you can attack like twice and get away with it without risk of really losing a tank. I went with 3 times because I got a very early poison, and poison can stop your enemy from attacking. The chance of having both poison or confusion stopping your enemy from attacking is pretty decent, maybe 40 to 50% chance. I have a really clean Numblebee fight. But yeah, that is generally just smashing the bee, burning it. Now we're going to want to equip the Muddy Pact and the Phalanx Pact. The Muddy Pact we picked up earlier on the second map, Bagworm's map. Or Bagworm's floor. Even though these are just kind of sectioned up pieces, not really floors. And I accidentally dropped an extra portal layer. Don't do that. It was the dumb. I was thinking, also do your splits when you like finish a level. I was doing the dumb coming through here. Not sure what I was thinking about, but it was not speedrunning. Grab Cloudy Cream. That is important for, you guessed it, apprentice notes. Then we run head first through some walls. Pretty unlucky to get this battle here. The only reason I use Pecos there is because my Pecos has 800 friggin' mana. As I mentioned earlier, for some reason, all of my mana ended up on that one character. And usually I have the character with more mana than brain cells in my frail slot. Just because general wave clear is really good. But I started stacking and I wasn't able to swap it. You tell this thing to go shove it because he wants you to collect items that are in blue tower. We don't want to go to blue tower. So we're burning him instead. Because we're good people. I think. Another fight where you can just all in. Hello, Discord. Why are you making noise now? My Discord never makes noise. Okay. Floor 4 is pretty much free. I drop a portal here, and then I Witch Belt out. This is going to both reset our mana to give us a better, I think, 6th floor. Also, on top of giving us a better 6th floor, it resets our reinforcements, and that's the big one. And it's also a reset point before we use our Silver Spoon. So, we use a Silver Spoon here just because Spartans suck. I really dislike running into Spartans. They just waste so much time, they waste so much mana. There is nothing good about Spartan fights. I grabbed the amulets here because the number of puppets that so there's a chance by the end of this that we need 12 puppets, 12 fighting puppets. But that is only if we pick up a second Lucky Pact, which is horribly unlucky. Or so horribly unlikely. Let's go with that one. Very lucky if we do get it. And our spoon ran out really early. So sadly we don't have coverage for this entire floor. If you're lucky, you can get to the feet fight with your spoon still active. Luckily, I'm getting not Spartans, even though they have like maybe a 50 or 60% spawn rate on this floor. They have an absurd spawn rate on this floor. I hate this freaking floor. Don't ever try to burn or use fog on these things. Those two hippos. Kill them with mud. I don't know why they chose mud, but mud is the answer to them. One of the reasons why we have muddy packs is because it's good against pretty much everything in Umbra. The only exception is that really weird Doghead and Blue Tower, but it's not horribly likely that we run into the creepy Doghead. The Riddy fight is another all-in fight. There is one scenario where you don't all in, and that is after it has used Mail Tail. That lowers your flame resistance and it likes to burn your front line. So that is the one scenario. All of your mages have flame resist, an inherent flame resist skill, so they do not care as much. Also, they will have things like flame amulets for more flame defense. They just don't care. Your tanks, however, are flammable as fuck. This is an all-in fight for your mages. This is a full guard fight for your tanks. Don't get those two things messed up. This is a fight that I generally don't stack. And I usually cancel my stack here because as you see on like my puppet line, I am missing a lot of mana. So in order to get to the top in like the quickest possible time, I unstack and start moving puppets. And as I've explained earlier, you cannot move puppets full stacked. This floor is pretty nice to us. Just drop some mud. This floor, okay, right there I just got a silver spoon that puts me at one spare spoon. That means in Rosa Tempest floor 7, I will have a silver spoon, which saves, I think maybe a minute or two. So getting a Sakura, or Sakura? Whatever that evil demon girl is. She takes physical damage, so make sure to target her with the Rusty Spear. She's pretty much weak to physical, doesn't care about your magic. If you're lucky, you can give that thing in that room the runaround like I just did. Pretty uncommon. Whether you want to stack this floor or not, there is a very real chance that you get cut. Okay, one thing coming back right here. Okay. The item that just passed on the left side of the screen. Let's see if I can get that back on screen. Items on this floor are very likely to be the ultimate hammer. That is an apprentice node item. That is why after I drop my portal in this room, I will come back and grab that item. Oh, it is the ultimate hammer, and then I take my leave. So getting the ultimate hammer there pushes your nodes long. It's not something that you have to farm for. It's something that can, you don't get it, definitely not the end of the world. So our trip to Furfur just gave us a bunch of really nice items that we just equip. Now we are destroying our charms for mana again. We are going to be getting Nullify Miasma. I get rid of one of my flame amulets because I got the Moongrass pen earlier. I actually generally keep that. I believe I probably, Nullify Miasma first. Then more Puppet storage and battle formations. Battle formations are for later. The puppet storage is for right now. I'm going to be making puppets. I'm going to be destroying everything here except for the pickaxe and Fool's Tarot, as you can imagine, or as you can probably guess by now. Those are both apprentice node items. So then I'm going to be making 2 puppets that could see combat, although it's unlikely, and the rest of the puppets. I don't know why I purchased things like that. That was odd. Mostly because it was noting that I hadn't had a remix yet and was trying to think how many puppets I wanted. We're going to be making 2 mages that may see combat, and then a bunch of mages that aren't. We're going to go all the way up to our max of 20 puppets. I think our max is 20 puppets. If it's not 20 puppets, the max puppets you want to make is like 22. And after the first 12, the last 10 are junk puppets. You will never need them in an actual fight unless you have made grave errors. Or you know some routing that I don't, which I would respect. That is most of what we do on this trip back. We won't need to equip those 2 extra puppets for a while. Also, sorting your puppets here can be kind of nice just for like clarity's sake. I like to do it. Is there any pack changes I do here? I don't believe so. I believe I'm just equipping the 2 useful mages and then putting on some not very useful mages. Just for damage increases since they all have Donum Master, which gives passive Donum bonus. Or Donum Power bonus, that one. 13% per mage. Taking a left here and grabbing the switch. Things on this floor are at least after the locked door, things in this particular area. I think Spartans might be in the fight table. They are just very, very low chance. I take this left here to try to get off of the pathway that the purple thing is on. Sometimes you can end up on a weird step counter and have the purple thing harass you. I drop here, and I actually changed up this area. First, we were going to stab these little mana prisons. A, because they hold mana, and B, because, well, they're in our way. Grab that item. Forget what that item does. But the important item we grabbed there was the key. That key will get us a lamp in a second. Make sure I go back to the correct floor. Also, that chest piece, if I recall correctly, is pretty good. Although it rolls with random values like many of the items in this game, so isn't guaranteed to be better. So I go smashing through the walls like a maniac. Pretty much everything on blue floor, if you run into combat, you can just go full retard. A lot of the things here are magic resistant. So just going all in. And you finally have like real stats, real mana values. Often in this tower, if you don't unstack on like the second battle on this floor, I think I'm probably going to unstack here. Like generally there's 3 fights in this tower. So don't plan on stacking for more than 3 fights. We're going to be grabbing 4 switches to get through the set of doors. This is our 3rd battle and our last on this floor. Just set everyone to pretty much go ham. And stack there, because I guessed that there would be 3 battles correctly. I'm going to take a quick hop into this cubby, grab Umbra Wine. There's a good chance that you grab Umbra Wine in other places, but it's so easy to pick it up there that if you ever have a question, like, do I have Umbra Wine? Well, just go grab it. Can't hurt to have more wine, probably. Unless you're drinking it. Then be careful. We grabbed Judgment Pact, which is actually a very interesting change that was made. And I actually make a mistake with my Judgment Pact later in Rosa Tempest, but it is not for this tower. Although it could be used for this tower if you so choose, or it could be used for this dungeon if you so choose. I will touch on that later when it becomes relevant. Hopefully, if I forget, please forgive me. I am dumb. Okay. Very important after you get tossed in jail. Your blue tower is complete. You get tossed in jail. Be very careful of your step counter if you're doing that exact same route that I just did. Because in the VOD you can hear that something becomes alerted by presence, and if you make any mistakes with your movement, it catches you and tries to do bad things to you, and it is an executioner. So that means like 10,000 health, or if if you flee from the battle, you could end up on some horrible route and end up just in a really bad spot. Or with just major time loss trying to plow through an executioner. I went back there for reinforcements. You want to trade using as little mana going up green tower as possible. Also, it's a tower you can do a little bit of stacking in. With the spoon routes that I've put in, it's actually hard to get like a good stack going in Umbra. To be honest, you don't even have to get EXP stacking.
I would recommend it for Rosa Tempest, um, just because you can get up to like 20k there. But in Umbra and Verdant Phenom, it's not the most important thing in the world. Back there I got the Phantom Ring, and I chose not to plow through the wall just because the amount of reinforcements required to complete this tower is very strict. And if you don't run into a bunch of mana bubbles, which is a little bit unlikely that you run into mana bubbles. Yeah, if you don't run into mana bubbles, you can run into reinforcement problems. I do choose to get this bell, because getting all of the bells you can is important, especially since they are A, time saves, and B, there is one required for an apprentice note, and it is not an apprentice note you can skip. That one is absolutely required for getting your Sage's Key that you need. I unstack there because I know this floor is the fly, and you can actually unstack on the fly. I could have stacked that fight and then unstacked here, but I do not stack before the queen in case I wish to change my pacts here. I don't know if I do on this run. So the pact you want to switch out if you do choose to switch pacts here is your Muddy Pact. Your Muddy Pact blows. It does not do anything against the Fly Queen. And if you choose to run it, it is kind of at your detriment. I generally like to swap it out with Witch Troop Pact. Although if you choose to put in Tactician's Pact and just full Moondrip, that is also an option. And that will also stop you from swapping pacts again later. Yeah. So if you choose to take this route and keep Muddy Pact in, on your first turn, you want to Muddy Weaken the Queen. That way you'll actually do some damage for like 2 turns. Because otherwise you are a sad friggin' panda. Unlucky for me, my fog did not get a full clear. Didn't have enough Dotem power to get a full clear. In this fight, you can all in until she starts blinking red, and then you want to guard with your tanks. Because there is a decent, probably like 60% chance it will start doing rampage, or desperate rampage. That does bad things to your mages. Or at least all of the mages that aren't in the Veterans Pact. In other ways, this is a pretty simple fight. With mages picked, yeah, see, that damage is just abysmally low. Yeah, don't recommend using Muddy picked here. If I had made that abundantly clear. Yeah, there's Desperate Struggle. Oh, Desperate Struggle, not Rampage, I'm dumb. Fly Queen is otherwise pretty simple. We have a Silver Spoon through here. We activated it on the floor just before. We plow through some walls. Make sure you don't skip this dialogue, and make sure you don't accidentally accept this dialogue. If you accept this dialogue, it is pretty much a run ender. You will lose like 5 minutes, and that's the run. Your spoon will wear off, and you will get very sad. I use a spoon through here because of the giant blue Spartans. I forget what they're called off the top of my head. Yeah, completely drawing a blank. And for the note that I was going to say earlier about the Judgment Pact, you can actually choose to put on the Judgment Pact after fighting the Queen, uh, instead of using a spoon through here. So if you wanted to save a spoon for some reason for something later, like say you didn't get a spoon earlier, like a spare spoon earlier, you wanted to try to get that time save, you could equip the Judgment Pact and auto kill all of the creatures through here. Since after you talk to that creepy looking black skeleton, you will have full karma, and the auto kill is based on your karma value. Um, Doing a little bit of equipment, putting some of my rings on. You don't have to do this here. I'm actually not even sure why I do it, or why I'm sorting my. That was horribly unnecessary and can be done later. I make a mistake there and go to Subterraria rather than top floor and turn into Furfur. I realize my mistake. And up to Furfur we go. Okay. Back to Subterraria. Or Subterra. I should stop pronouncing things wrong. It makes me look dumb. Hit the switch. Not really worth going through any walls here. Switches. Anyway, even though this fruit syrup looks like a dumb item, that is a key item. Do grab. Otherwise, you'll get for any face. Also, make sure if you take pacts off in order to smash walls that you put them back on. Otherwise, things get kind of awkward. So for Rosa Tempest, the packs that I run left to right are Frail, Tacticians. In this case, it's going to be Judgment. If I didn't make the mistake of putting Judgment over Tacticians. But my ideal, assuming I get Judgment, Frail, Tacticians, Judgment, Veteran, and then Phalanx. Without Frail, Tacticians, Pecos, Veteran, Phalanx. I got a little mana, so I'm getting avoid enemies altogether, so on the 7th floor, I don't get ripped limb from limb by the floor miasma. There's actually, maybe you do take out Pecos Pact? Yeah. So the flowers that don't die yeah, okay. I will actually correct myself. If you don't have Judgment Pact, Frail Tactician or Frail Muddy Tacticians, Veterans, Phalanx would actually be correct because the flowers that do not die to fog are weak against mud. So I will actually make that correction here. I will point out the flowers when they appear. They're the yellow flowers. So I choose not to auto-kill the bees just because, well, Frail is just as fast and is in my 1 slot.
Something to note about the Phantom Rings that I did put on earlier is that they stop me from getting status effects, which will stop my tanks from being chipped out over time as hard. Um, Also, status effects take time to be added to the status effect bar down there. So it could save a little time. I'm not sure if it's ever really worth. But it's a thing, and I will note it as at least that. Um, you're probably not going to see me use my auto kill judgment pact, this pact right here, unless I run into either a yellow flower or I run into the set of mages. Oh, there's actually three. Yellow flower, um, the mages with claws, which are creepy little things, or one of the two lizards, which I believe we're going to run into here. Um, Take note if you grab aromatic incense in this place, or a celestial globe. Okay, forget the celestial globe. That's for another conversation. Take note in here if you grab aromatic incense, because that is an item that you are scheduled to grab in Amadeus for the Sage's Key. If you grab it here, you can save a little time in Amadeus. So I did grab it here. This is the yellow flower. I am choosing for some reason to instead use fog on the bees and then smash it with my veteran pact, which is, I guess, another response. Not sure why I'm using two spells instead of one. Probably not used to running the judgment pact through here, so I went with my default response to this fight. And this is the fight that I made mistakes on. So I should have Tactician's Pact right here, and it should give me another option for crushing this block, instead of just having, my one Veteran Pact. I made mistakes. I tried again. I pretty much knew that Judgment Pact did not work on the block. It is the only thing in here that, the only thing that you're likely to run into that Judgment Pact doesn't work on. Yeah, and it's just troll healing me. So this thing is like guard rate, which is why you want as many sources of damage as possible. I'm pretty sure in my commentary, I pretty blatantly just outright say that I'm going to lose time in Rosa Tempest due to that fight. And I'm pretty sure I'm accurate. I'm pretty sure I lose like almost a minute here. I grab a second aromatic incense. Whoop-de-doo. Two don't do anything for you. This is where we start using silver spoons. I have an extra, as we remember getting from Umbra. So we will have one for every floor outside of the first. So to speak to like what silver spoons do, because this might not be horribly common knowledge to everyone watching, silver spoons will, as I stated earlier, stop things from spawning. However, their gimmick is that even though there's 100 steps advertised in the spoon's description, it will actually give you a random number of steps between 100 and 200. And it does not average at 150. It actually averages at about 140. So weighted a little bit on the low side. Or, yeah, weighted a little bit on the lower side. So, it is a source of RNG and is a source of time loss. Or time gain, depending on, what kind of luck you usually get. But it is a source of RNG. Another source of RNG.
And Rosa Tempest is really pretty simple. When we bump into a silver spoon, or we collect every single silver spoon in here, um, and we run through like a madman, popping silver spoons all the way because we don't like the fights in here. They're uh, saddening and they are constant and they are hard to avoid. They're they're long fights, is what I meant to say, not constant. Being repetitive. So the first floor, you're pretty likely, or you're decently likely to run out of spoons here is this floor. It's generally not horrible to run out of spoons on this floor. Um, you'll generally run out somewhere around here. It's definitely not the end of the world, just a little bit of time loss, probably less than a minute. Um, it is actually floor 5 right here that your time loss can really start racking up with bad spoons. We grab another one there. So there's actually a little bit of a gimmick to saving time if your spoon does run out. Because your spoon is going to run out just sometime in this area. There's a chance you grab an encounter along this corridor or this corridor, but once we get to right here, uh, this is where the time loss can really get you shot. Because people who played this game casually probably know that in the outside ring and the inside ring, there are a bunch of the dragons. And if you don't have Judgment Pact, you get really sad. So the inside ring is counterclockwise. The outside ring is clockwise. And should your spoon run out, it is good to take note of that because going with the flow of traffic, like in the top of Umbra Blue Tower, can save you from getting encounters. Um, and yeah, that is one thing to note that can save you time there. Um, Floor 6 is the other spot where time loss will just start rolling in. It's a little bit worse than a 50-50 on whether or not you're going to have your spoon run out on this floor. I'd probably put it at like 60% chance it does run out, 40% chance that you skate by. So be ready to just have someone try to bug you. And mine just ran out. Mine was incredibly early. I'm guessing it was, just over 100 steps. Under less than 110 steps though. So this is where I use my Judgment Pact on Dark Drops, the mages with claws. Magic does horrible and you don't have enough sources of physical damage. Although you can use Full Moon Drip, but that takes 2 turns. Judgment Pact is quicker. Ooh, another block fight. Ouch. Another block fight with guard rate. Yeah. And this is a prime example of why we also use Tactician's Pact here. So we just have to gum these blocks to death. It's unlucky. A good Rosa Tempest just, doesn't get block fights, and then you probably have like a 10-minute Rosa Tempest. I'm pretty sure I had like a 14-minute Rosa Tempest. Somewhere between a 14 and a 15-minute Rosa Tempest. But otherwise, Rosa Tempest, there's just not tons to talk about. Outside of rate. Oop. Okay, after this bit of combat. Yeah. So blue flowers can be killed with fog. They are weak against fog. The yellow flowers only like to die to physical and mud. Just to kind of state the weaknesses. White Rose Peck, make sure you grab that. Do not ever leave floor 6 without that. You will be sad because there's no coming back for it. Unless you remember right about now, no coming back for it. It is gone forever, or your run is over. Um, those are your only two options if you forget it there. So floor 7 is a floor actually doesn't have like super horrible encounters. It only has one really bad encounter, and that is the double pink block fight. Should you get that fight, I hope you have tacticians on, because ouch. There's a lot of ouch in that fight. And that is the only bad fight on this floor. You can get 3 pink blocks on this floor. Not in one fight, but there's 2 sets of pink block fights here. The single block fight, not that bad if you're properly set up like I wasn't. Yeah, I lost just over a minute on the block fights over what I think was already a bad Rosa Tempest. A good Rosa Tempest is about 12 minutes, an excellent Rosa Tempest is about 10. We put Muddy Pact back on because Muddy Pact is really good in the middle floor of Amadius, or I guess the main floor of Amadius. Put on our White Rose Pact just so any fights we do run into, we can start getting Pact EXP for our White Rose. Okay. Head force back to main menu for, I believe, the second time. Amadius is pretty dull, all things considered. I believe I'm going to get my puppets up to 20. Yeah, 3 souls, so I am going to 20 puppets. That should clear me for endgame. 20 puppets is my minimum, max of like 22. So if you notice that in Rosa Tempest you pick up an item called the Celestial Globe, you actually want to make some puppets with the name Lucky when you're doing your last little bit of puppet creation. Because only puppets that are lucky can go into Lucky Pacts. And I probably didn't mention earlier, or at least I don't think I mentioned earlier, that naming your character Lucky will actually just make them lucky, which is why we do it. So having puppets to stuff into the Lucky Pact is very good because it'll increase the crit rate on your Lucky Pact, and that is never a bad thing. Also give them more base damage, so win-win. And on the note of naming your puppets Lucky, another reason why I name even my tanks Lucky is because every single turn, even on the overworld when you're moving, and oh crap. Yeah, okay, pause this here. On the overworld and in battle, naming your characters Lucky will give you an increased chance to remove status effects. Okay, and a note here, if in this four-way junction you head north and then take your first left in that room, there is an aromatic incense. That is the planned aromatic incense that you grab in Amadius if you did not get the decently common drop in Rosa Tempest. It's like probably 75% chance you get it in Rosa Tempest, but it's good to know where the backup is because that item is absolutely mandatory for getting the Sage Key. In fact, that is the item that is the exact exchange for the Sage Key. We grabbed that Witch's Bell back there purposefully because we are very low on Witch's Bells at like all important times. So I do pretty much every single bit of Amadius is just playing with portals. I am going to probably speed this up until we get to like something interesting. The only note here is to do this scapegoat either before Amadius or during Amadius. I chose it during mostly just because I forget. I'm dumb. Yeah. Scapegoat, grab all the spoons. Those are my two, I guess, Amadius notes, along with like just do Amadius correctly. Amadius is another place where we're going to be skipping all of our encounters. Outside of like the top floor, we're only going to be skipping the dungeon of Amadius because the encounter rate like up here and on the main floor is so low. We're going for 2 more spoons. This will give us enough spoons for end game. Well, those first 3 clear us through Amadius, and then we're going to be grabbing. Ooh, oh no, I guess those last 2 spoons got us spoons for Dusk and Tanis. We're going to be grabbing 1 more for Campanula. But the 2 at the end of Rosa Tempest got us 2 of the floors in Amadius, and the one we picked up before the stairs cleared us through Amadius. That is accurate. I clearly know what I'm doing. But yeah, spoons means better time, so. More fun with portals. Just tons of plot stuff. Yeah, really not much to talk about. Is just a lot of running through Amadius. Since we do the dungeon with silver spoons, it's just more running through Amadius. I don't think there's any major notes here other than hit all the important switches and grab your Lucky Pact and don't fall in a pit. That about covers it. Also get the spoon up here. Yeah. Switches. Right here's the lucky pact. Very important pact. Very strong pact. Also is what will let us do our EXP farm. Um, I put on my lucky pact. Sorry about the yawning. And that is just in case my spoon on this floor runs out. This is the only floor that I've ever had a spoon run out on. In what could be a detrimental time. Ooh, let's stop. Normal. Yeah, this is the only floor that I've had a spoon run out on a bad time, and that can get you into a boogeyman fight. And hitting a boogeyman with rocks is really satisfying. And does good damage. So right here, from this spot right here, uh, it's kind of hard to remember the rest of this, so I just have like a set of numbers. It is 6 forward, 4 right, or 4 left, 5 left, and then 3 right. And then it is just up and right around, and then you just follow the wall on the right side. Yeah. And then you just finish Marius. Easy, easy. Um, Now we're headed back, finishing the last part of Marius. Okay. For EXP farm, we do have a specific set of packs we want. Um, also, right now is a fantastic time to make sure you have your formations finished. You definitely want Donum defense formation. Also, we're going to be doing our apprentice notes here, making sure that we can get all the way down to our Sage's Key. So for EXP farming, our packs that we're going to want, these are in no real particular order. Lucky, Phalanx, Frail, White Rose, and Pecos. And our last 3 packs, the reason why we run Pecos, White Rose, and Frail is because they all have Fog and Fog Pick Peepers? Yeah. Um, the only thing we have that does anything against them is Fog, and they have a good HP pool. So that is why we run the packs we run. I am going to equip my spare puppets into empty slots. Donum Master gives 13% damage bonus when using Donum. So now we're just off to EXP farm. Off the portal. We're going to be grabbing a few items down here. And if you didn't have a Witch's Bell for your getting your Sage's Key, there are 2 Witch's Bells on this floor. So you're not absolutely screwed if you ran out on Amadius. So farming through here, there are 1, 2, 5. There are 5 mob spawns on this floor, if we're not talking about the very, very crowded room. And you need to clear all of the 10 or all of the 5 mob spawns twice. Or 1, 2, yeah. You need to clear them all twice in order for the mob room to spawn. And once you have the mob room, things get easier. There's a lot less wandering around. We grab a silver lamp there. We grab a helmet by a very interesting name. And then yeah, it's mostly just farming. So I'll put this bitch in high. EXP farm generally takes about 15-ish. Between 12 and 15. Not too many things you can do to speed it up outside of just like being lucky and slamming your face into encounters as fast as possible. This looks almost very nauseating when played at this speed. I make sure to guard with my tanks because since you're going to be here for as long as you are, a really good chance you just get wore down. So I always make sure, I don't generally guard pick peepers. They don't do that much damage, but I always guard the red Spartans. You don't have to guard these guys either. Unless you end up into an augmented one. Especially if you get an Overlord augment. Those things are mean. Running into augments during your EXP farm can be real detrimental. Unless it ends up being a Ringa. So yeah, just farming. One thing that you can do once you have this room available to you is there will be 6 things that spawn if you kind of just walk in, kill the first thing, and then wait. You can actually have things aggro to you, and then you will force yourself into a fight with one of the things around you, preferably something that's not aggroed, or everything around you aggroes, all the better. But force yourself into one of the fights, and it will get a multi-battle, and multi-battles give more EXP. So if you play this game, you probably don't want to force multi-battles, and that explanation was horribly dumb and pointless. So yeah, just force multi-battles when you can, or EXP. It's definitely worth the potential time loss for waiting. And I don't think there's really anything more to note. Let's just set up this room, or set up the lower left-hand room for spawns, and mugging as many things. Yeah, I tried to set it up right there, but I failed the multi-battle. I get a multi-battle, but no Ringa. So, unlucky. Um, oh, one thing to note. Once you're done with your EXP farm, try to make sure that Pecos and White Rose are not in the front line before you get to the Evil Mass fight, which will be coming up after Campanula. It's really easy to forget and have one of your packs that can cast fire in the front line, like I do right now. Yeah, if you get into the Evil Mass fight while one of your fire packs is in the front line, you get sad because it means a slow fight. Um, oh, I should probably explain what the goal here is outside of just getting EXP. The total amount of EXP we wanted was 500k. Once you're over 500k, you should be able to finish the game. I haven't completely tested what the absolute lowest you can be is, though. I found 500k to be a really good number, though, for your tanks. That gets them over 1,000 mana with the current setup I have. And 1,000 mana is required for Sage's Pact to cast the spell that weakens Elkurvrada. So we're wandering through Campanula our second time. And... Ooh, I should probably slow things down. Because, well, that's how a proper tutorial is done. Yeah, okay. We'll go from, like, right here. Okay, Papa Spoon here, and that is just because none of the encounters you get here have like any EXP value at all. They're all garbage encounters. Also, some of them have a chance of just like surviving because none of them are weak to magic, or none of them have any magic weaknesses. I do a safety fog veil there. It's not necessary. It is just in case my spoon runs out, I don't have incredibly low HP value that something can take advantage of. Break through this wall because it's faster. Place a mud exit pointed at our Great Sage's Pact that we will come back later for. Smash this wall. Smash this wall. We do our EXP farm before Campanula just so our White Rose Pact is at a lower reinforcement value to equip. That way we don't run out of reinforcements in this dungeon since we are smashing walls and dropping portals. Okay. And my Pecos Pact, which is in my 5, and my White Rose Pact is in my 3. I believe that is the last change I just made. You can choose to change your equipment before this fight. It's not necessary. It doesn't hurt though. And just like do an equipment update. The only pack that like you definitely don't want for this fight is yeah, the only pack you don't want for this fight is Muddy. It is just not good. It is another fight where Muddy Pact is not good. In fact, in theory, you could just like forego Muddy Pact entirely. That's a thought. It's not too far out of the way though. Yeah, that's an optional thought. So that fight is pretty clean as long as you have enough fire pacts. I'm setting up for my final battle. We're putting in Veterans Pact, and we're putting in Muddy Pact. Oh, I passed right by it. I'm blind. And the reason why we are putting in those pacts is because they are very low-cost pacts. Lucky Pact can clear every single encounter in um, inside Duskin Tannis. So because Lucky Pact is so dang versatile, we can just set up early for the final battle. And that is just saving out on a little bit of work we have to do later. We're going to be changing it anyway, since we still have to put in the Great Sages Pact. But yeah, when you do it is entirely up to you. Yeah. So right now we're just going to be going around hitting all of the triggers until we get to the stairs, and then we're going to pop spoons and hit triggers, because yay spoons. Yeah, I think yay spoons. So this is all pretty basic, just smashing things with Lucky Catfish. Yeah, we'll go full 1.5. That little bit of pathing was trying to avoid this encounter, but I failed at it. The fights here are really easy with Lucky Pact. Lucky Pact kind of destroys this area. So one thing I'm about to turn around and go do, because I forget I routed it in, is this Silver Spoon right there. Good Silver Spoon to get. I'm going to pop a Silver Spoon here. This courtyard is horribly infested. If you've ever beaten this game, you'd know that. So I make sure I have a Silver Spoon here. And none of the Silver Spoons in Duskin Tannis should ever wear out under any circumstances unless you are absolutely dinking around in the worst possible way. You're just not there for that long. Anyway, going here, dropping a portal, popping another spoon, and going to find objectives. I choose to do North Floor last, just out of personal preference. You can, however, do these last two floors in whatever order you want. Between the north floor or the east floor, which has Furias in it. Going to Campanula to pick up my Great Sages Pact. Make sure that when you're on that exclamation point, you do not hit A. You cannot escape from that fight. You will have to kill the Sheep Tyrant. And we are going to be grabbing exclamation points, and very important before you go into the final battle, make sure you scapegoat. You do not want karma going into the final battle. That is also something that you need to note going into the Evil Mass fight. Is the Evil Mass has a decent crit rate, so both of those fights you want to scapegoat before.
Just doing an equipment update. I think my spear guy just put on a two-handed spear. Whoops. Yeah, I think it's the spear I picked up in the bottom of Umbra. Whoops. Yeah, by this point he should have before the Evil Mass fight, he should actually be running a guitar in both hands. So that's my mistake. And yeah, this fight we just first turn we cast the weakening spell. One thing that might not have been made very evident on my tanks is that I equipped them all with a Phantom Ring. This makes sure that none of them can get a best status on the first turn. It'll also increase their mana value by 300, which in this case gave me almost 300 extra mana. Sometimes it'll get you just over the 1k mark. That is generally the goal. I put Veteran in this slot just because it is frontline, and having HP value in your frontline is pretty good. It's not really important for this fight. You could have Muddy picked here if you wanted. Velkavrana just generally attacks your whole team. Although I think one of her bite attacks is frontline only. So there is maybe a small reason to run Veteran Pact where I do. Then yeah, you were just kind of casting. One thing I do here, where are we at in the battle phase? Okay, it is casting this Vile Feather Spear. After the first Vile Feather Spear, I take the opportunity to heal with my White Rose Pact. That just like ensures that I will be healthy across the board. I mean, since it takes 3 turns to cast that particular ability. So something really interesting with the Velkavrana fight, and this is one of the only 2 places where this happens, and it's very interesting that it is at the very beginning and end of the game. With this attack right here that it is going to cast, Return to a Puppet, it will only ever cast this on your White Rose Pact. It doesn't matter what slot your White Rose Pact is in, it will always aim for your White Rose Pact. And this is a lot like in Campanula. Like our very first time in Campanula, things will be aiming for our Healing Pact, which I always found very strange. I actually always wondered if it was like a lore-coded reason why White Rose Pact is aimed for. Like I would be horribly interested if someone figured out like the reason behind the targeting, because I have never found out another reason why there would be just targeting on that particular pact in this fight. Because it is 100% consistent. I have never seen, with White Rose Pact Alive, I have never seen it aim for another pact. Sadly, it got off Synwave. Synwave is absolutely devastating. But luckily, it died just after getting off Synwave. That is the one attack that can absolutely ruin your run. And I think that is... Do I have anything more to add to this? No, not really. Yeah, just that Synwave sucks. And the fight setup for Velkavrana is very basic. Just all in with your mages, block with your tanks. And make sure you have all of your Katars equipped. Also, something I might not have noticed is, or might not have pointed out is before the Velkavrana fight, I choose to save just in case I've made a mistake and want to reset the fight by closing the game. Yeah, that is it for the tutorial.
Good luck on anyone who runs this game.